Thanks, Andy. Going out and nullifying this video just 2 days after I got all of its audio work done. Genuinely though, it is great to hear updates. I just didn't think they'd go right around and confirm it. But anyway, let's get into the video. I've heard so many people calling for Matt Reeves' Elseworlds Batman to be folded into the main DCU, and I'm hoping this isn't the hottest take I'll ever have, because I'm assuming I'm not the only one, but I really don't want to see these two in the same universe. And I know that the split dichotomy between the two is what makes their dynamic interesting, but the entire foundation behind each is too steeped in contradictory worlds and tones. Whether that be sincere and colorful comic book cartoonishness, or dark, gritty realism, that as well as their physicality, and perhaps even a confirmation in a recent animated show, all come together to convince me that introducing a brand new Batman for the DCU is not only the right way to go about this, but precisely what Gunn and the other studio heads have already decided on. Welcome to Sandwich Reviews. I'm the Talking Sentient Sandwich, your naive but informed optimist, and though I say I don't want to see this specific pairing, no matter how much I want the DCU to get a new, more comic booky Batman, nothing can take away from how Reeves' Batman is, and Gunn's Superman hopefully will be, perfect distillations of who and what those characters are. So before diving into why I don't think that pairing would work, I'll highlight the few reasons why I think it could. The first of which is that Pattinson's Batman and Corn Sweat's Superman look relatively similar. Despite Pattinson not even being kind of a physical match, something that will come up again later, if you put these two side by side, the design on the costumes doesn't look far off, looking like they could potentially be from the same universe of heroes. I mean, one is a homemade battle armor built to take gunshots, and the other, whether or not it's sewn by his ma and pa, which I really hope it is a repurposed Kryptonian bodysuit, or part of his baby blanket, or Krypto's cape is that baby blanket and Clark gets the fabric from the Fortress of Solitude. But regardless of where they came from, both suits look similar enough that they could be put beside each other and would work. Though, the biggest reason why these two could work together, and why I'll wake up some days and genuinely consider that Reeves' Batman could be folded into the DCU, is that split dichotomy I mentioned, and how good each character is. And I haven't even seen this new Superman speak other than asking his dog to take him home, so I'm just really talking out of my butt when I say this, yet I have faith that this new Superman will be written as well as Matt Reeves' Batman, at least as far as in understanding its protagonist, because this Batman is amazing. I feel like I'm swayed by recency and my own personal bias, yet Reeves's was the first theatrical Batman movie to give Bruce an actual arc. That is, aside from Mask of the Phantasm, the Lego one, that's a masterpiece by the way, and some of Forever. However, The Batman still stands out because after decades of reboots, it manages to feel fresh, breathing new life into the, at this point, almost tired themes and concepts of Batman being the world's greatest detective. Finally. And I love Nolan's Batman as much as the next guy. I rewatch The Dark Knight at least once every few months because it's that good. However, this guy is definitely not a detective. And while The Batman may not be perfect and still could be a better mystery in my eyes, it still has an internal consistency and logic that makes sense. And more important than that, keeps you entertained as you follow along just one step behind the evil villainous mastermind. Therefore, along with giving us a distinctly younger yet still experienced Bruce, a shut-in hermit who has yet to adopt the Playboy mask, this Batman has become a seminal figure in the Batman mythos, eclipsing almost every other previous iteration by hammering home and perfecting the same Batman concept that has engulfed him in popular culture ever since the cinematic tragedy that was Batman and Robin. That concept being gritty realism. And with Reeves' Batman being the most recent version of that, consequently making him the most popular, obviously people would want to see him alongside other heroes. After all, at this point, that's the Batman most people know and recognize. Needless to say, a new Batman can and should also create a fun dynamic for the two to play off of, but the first thing for fans of this specific world's finest pairing to say is that general audiences would be confused by the introduction of yet another Batman, and part of me does agree with that sentiment. In fact, I have a whole video essay about how Marvel is making their multiverse unnecessarily complicated with the numbered designations of their universes. But let's be real, general audiences will always be confused. used. No matter what is done to exposit the necessary information to the audience, even if the main characters halt the story and look directly into the camera to clearly explain who's here and what's going on, someone will find a way to be lost. And that's particularly true when you throw out terms like elseworlds.
And then when it comes to the distinguished competition, as they say, a lot of people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Somebody just said, "Congrats on Blue Beetle" to me. People don't know. People don't know.
Yeah.
For every comic book nerd or even a layman who barely understands the characters and worlds established, there will always be someone else who cannot physically wrap their head around superhero characteristics. It could be shouted from the rooftops that Reeves' Batman is elseworlds all you want, but there will be someone out there who just won't get it. And along those lines, I suppose the DC Elseworlds don't necessarily need to be separate and could combine in some multiversal storyline, as all comic book stories eventually do. But I'm begging DC, please don't do that. I'm confident they won't, especially with Gunn's publicly stated end goal of having every project be thematically distinct and rich in creativity, but I still need to get it out there that that should not be done. Not just because by the time they get to it, Marvel will have already beat that dead horse into a puddle, but because it would come off as desperate. Although if that was going to be done at all, I did hear something about how the Snyderverse Justice League could come back not as the same characters, but alternate variations who became the crime syndicate. And you know what? In like a decade, that wouldn't be half bad. But that's not important for World's Finest, just something I wanted to bring up, because if we fully transition to the reasoning I have why the pairing of Pattinson and Cornsweet wouldn't work, it's because it's already been disproven. And I've been ignoring this argument up until now in the interest of fairness and conversation, but nothing brought up before now really matters, given that I've held off on this trump card that demonstrates not subjectively but factually that Pattinson isn't the DCU's main caped crusader. But before I continue any further, spoilers for Creature Commandos. Seriously. I'm not even going to give anything major away, but if you haven't seen up to episode 6, then I'm about to ruin a great moment for you. So maybe just end the video here. Thanks for watching, enjoy a sandwich, blah blah blah. You guys gone? Everyone else ready? Good. Because 3, 2, 1, we see the new DCU Batman, and he's clearly not Robert Pattinson. I mean, the biggest character feature that I saw was just how wide he was, hinting at an older Bruce, maybe even resembling something like the Dark Knight Returns Batman, though I know they wouldn't go that old. Just someone who is already established in the universe and hopefully already has a dozen or so Robins running around. His suit is also an in-depth conversation that I'll table for another day, but for now, I'll say that hint of blue we saw could easily be explained away by the flash of lightning that accompanied him, but I swear, everything seems to be pointing to him getting the clothy but still tactical gray and blue suit. Imagine Jim Lee's Batman in Hush, but just a fraction more armored. But if we move on assuming the new DCU Batman isn't Pattinson, whoever he ends up being might as well be separated from all the ones we've gotten before, in the same way that this new Superman is being separated. Although, where this new Superman seems to be going back to the sincere Donner roots that made him popular, Batman doesn't really have a cinematic template for him to go back to, at least not in the way that I would want. I suppose the closest thing I want them to follow is Ben Affleck or Adam West's, yet I still want them to create something new. And I bring up West mainly because his Batman and surrounding characters, despite never being played too seriously, were always 110% Batman. Be that as it may, as much as I would really enjoy seeing a goody two-shoes Batman, thanks to decades of taking the character almost too seriously, that just wouldn't work now, on his own or with a Superman. Not because he isn't a physical match for everyone, given that Adam West's Batman is the most powerful, at least according to Warren Ellis and Chip Zdarsky, because that Batman was written in an era where he would always have a solution to his problem conveniently in his utility belt. But simply because I want this new DCU Batman to be incredibly powerful. Not with strength, but instead in his strategic, on-the-fly intelligence that allows him to stand among literal gods and not be turned into paste with every Justice League level fight. And that's the same reason I knew Christian Bale's Batman would never meet a Superman either. Because even if he did, he wouldn't be able to hold a candle to the powerhouse that is Superman. And just to be clear, this has nothing to do with our overall quality. As I've stated many times and will continue to state, I love both of them, but I by and large just couldn't see either lasting more than 3 seconds against any Superman. Say what you will against Affleck's Batman, and I do think his world's finest dynamic or fight isn't nearly as interesting or compelling as it should be, but at least his Batman could feasibly survive in a fight against metahumans, all thanks to the decades of experience he's gained from being a successful vigilante in this world. That and his many, many toys. Something that Pattinson's Batman doesn't have. He's got a cool muscle car that, put together with the movie's soundtrack, creates a scene that plays in my brain on loop, but it's not the same. And then, on top of that, there's the setting of each, which are two very distinct worlds. With a version of Clayface confirmed for the Batman Part 2, I was hoping for a supernatural or even at least a freak of science villain, but with that very thing presumably happening with the DCU's upcoming Clayface movie written by Mike Flanagan, I'm willing to accept that Reeves' universe is entirely consisting of normal humans. They may be freaks, but they're not freaks of science. Meaning that Pattinson's Batman is never going to team up with any kind of Superman. There's optimistically a Robin down the line, but no world's finest in his future. But if I'm honest, in addition to its characters not being able to slot in with the rest of the DCU, Reeves' Scotland-based Gotham also doesn't fit that well. I mean, it's always been a bit ridiculous to have Gotham and Gotham alone be stuck in this timeless era where it's a mix of Art Deco and concrete futurism, yet that is one of the many reasons why the city of Gotham is so memorable. Although I can't help but wish for more over-the-top surrealist stuff, which I doubt can be exaggerated too much, especially with the green-tinted, oppressive, almost brutalist architectured city we already saw in Creature Commandos, and just for the sake of continuity, that can't be changed too drastically, but I still wouldn't mind seeing at least one blimp casting a spotlight down on the dingy alleyways that make up the city. And I've already brought this up in just about every single Batman-esque video essay I've made, but I just want the DCU's Gotham to be as cartoony as Metropolis is looking to be. I don't know if I entirely want a constant blood red sky, a massive statue or sculpture on every corner, and 20 blimps in the sky, but you know what? I would not complain if that's what the DCU's Gotham was. If anything, I want to complain that it's too comic book. That would be amazing. So unfortunately, for the multitude of reasons I've talked about, I doubt we'll get to see any kind of world's finest pairing anytime soon. There's a good chance that this new Batman will be seen here and there Batmaning about, but not with any kind of focus, the most of which will probably be in the Clayface movie next, where I'm hopeful he'll even be the villain, but I have a feeling that the DCU is going to show a lot of restraint when it comes to their new Caped Crusader, which is great when it comes to quality, but not for my impatient brain. But what are your thoughts on this world's finest pairing? Love it? Hate it? Sad we'll probably never get to see it? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for weekly video essays and reviews, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.